Our topic today is cow flow, and I suppose the definition of cow flow is the movement of the cow from the paddock to the yard, through the parlour and back out as smooth and efficiently as possible. And anything that upsets that flow is a hindrance. So I suppose the thinking behind this whole area is that the cow likes being milked. They're creatures of habit, they like routine. And what we call happy cow is a cow that's not sick, doesn't have mastitis, in good general health, tend to be happy cows. And I suppose we start the cow flow with leaving the field, leaving the paddock, the width of the gate leaving the paddock, right through the roadway and then right into the yard. So I suppose they all create positive experiences for the cow, and that in itself then encourages the whole area of milking it down. So looking at our roadway, we have a picture of a roadway here. Roadways are hugely important. I suppose what has happened with the recent expansion in dairying is that cow numbers have increased, but sometimes the infrastructure hasn't. So the width of the roadway, the width of the gap first of all, and then the width of the roadway. So somebody with 100 cows, they might be looking at a 5-metre roadway, but if you're up to 300 and 400 cows, you want to increase that to 7 metres. We were in Galway yesterday and there's stone walls along each side here, so that gives you a huge restriction. Whereas in this case it's a question of moving a wire fence back a half a metre or a metre to facilitate the width of the roadway. The other thing about roadways is a lot of talk in recent times about shaded areas on the roadway, because if you have a tree or a high hedge along the roadway, it does keep it moist and it's more likely to unravel in that area then. So what we would encourage is not necessarily to remove everything along the roadway, but if there's a tree or a branch of the trees or a high hedge, we might just trim them back and allow the roadway to dry, and it keeps a much better surface then. The surface is hugely important, and I suppose it's a question of sourcing local gravel as best as possible. It's not as important how it's put down as the type of, some fellas will put it down with the bucket or the loader and the cows will do the work then after that, but the type of gravel, the type of surface that you put on is probably really important. And not to have too high a camber, because cows won't walk sideways. They need to have a reason. While you want the water to flow off it, you don't want it high that cows will only walk in the centre and both sides. Then we move into the yard, and the yard space that's recommended is for the smallish type cow, the British Friesian, maybe cross Jersey types cow, 1.25 square metres per animal, whereas you're into the large Holstein cow, you're looking at 1.5 square metres per animal there for the large Holstein cow. So I suppose when if you're doing a yard or extending your yard, you want to allow that space. Some people will use the length of the parlour as well, or the two sides of the parlour. I tend to keep that as a extra, because in the month of May, when cows are freshly calved, they're at their thinnest or narrowest in body size. When they're 6 months in calf, say October, November, they'll be that much bigger. So if you're tight in the springtime, they're going to be very tight in at the back end. So I'd use I kind of advise farmers to use the parlour then as an overflow to counteract that. Backing gates are very important in the yard. Not a lot of people have them, but the ones that have them find them quite good. The one you have here today is mounted on the scraper. The key point, I suppose, on the backing gate is that there's a hock rail. The hock rail is at a certain height where it hits the cow's hind leg on the hock. One of the things that's very important, and maybe that's a bit close from there to there, that there's no angles. If you take for the angle of the stick here, that there's a corner like that, a cow can get her leg, or if another cow pushes her leg will drop in behind that, but she can lift it out again. So you don't want corners. So anytime either round them or square at 90 degrees like that, that's ideal for that scenario. So backing gates should never be used to force cows. You just fill the space, let the cows move along and just fill the space behind them. And some people will fit a bell or some maybe noise buzzer or something as well, and it's actually without the gate ever touching, the cows moves forward as soon as the buzzer starts up. The other thing important thing about a backing gate is to have it that it will just move a metre or so at a time and then stop. You know, if somebody was to turn it on and go away and forget about it, it could be dangerous, because you could shove the cows all up and you're going back to this area then where they won't let down the milk because they're all stressed out. And the fourth or the fifth point then is incorporating sunlight to the parlour. As much as possible, try and have the parlour and the yard much the same, that there's no difference. You're not going from a bright sunlight area right into a dark building. So for that reason, we'd be recommended that you might cover, say, 2 spans of the collecting yard that is quite similar, and try and incorporate as much natural sunlight as possible into the parlour, if it's possible to do that. It may be through perspex lighting or raising the roof or various different things like that. So I suppose they are the key points in cow flow. Anything that hinders the cow travelling from the paddock to the farmyard is something that affects cow flow, and sharp bendways on the roadways and narrow junctions, and particularly when you come into the yard. Just one of the points here in this yard is the width of the entrance into the yard here. It's quite wide. This is a large herd of about 300 cows, so it's probably 8 metres or something like that there. The cows come in and they turn right then, and they're facing the parlour. If that gate was at the front of the parlour or front of the yard, they would come in and they would face this way, and then they have to turn 180 degrees. Preferably if it was just back one little notch more, it would be more ideal, but it's pretty good at that, and it's good and wide, and that gives cows a lot of room, particularly the younger first and second calvers. Then they don't get bossed around so much when they have enough room.